that. For the record, my name is Phil Abramson with the Morristown Planning Division, consulting firm Topology, 60 Union Street, New Jersey. And
Excuse me. Who joined?
what?
Hello, Governor.
Oh, hi, Councilman Armington.
Okay.
We're just getting started.
So I'm here.
Hello.
Somebody's good with somebody on the phone.
Oh, Councilman Armington just joined, sorry, at 7:32.
All right. So I'm here really to continue the conversation that we started over the past several months now with regard to the site you see in front of you. And we've had a lot of dialogue already. We've heard a lot of things from the public. I'm here as the town's planner to vet a lot of the concerns that we've heard, to share some new information, and to make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard this evening, and to make sure their concerns are basically addressed. So to give a start and a recap, why are we here? We're here, and frankly, what I'm about to show you, I think is the most consequential, most complex project that I will have a chance to work on in this town. Maybe any of us in our careers as people dedicated to caring about Morristown. The level of infrastructure, the type of infrastructure improvement that's being proposed here is serious. It is going to have a major impact on the way the road network operates here, and the development of these buildings and the type of activity that's contained within them will also have a lasting impact on this town. So it's something that I take very seriously. I know that you all take it very seriously, and I know the members, if any of the volume of the members of the public are here, of any indication how seriously the public takes it, they share in wanting to know more about it. So at our last meeting, we had a meeting in the senior center upstairs, and we had a very long list of things, and I'm not going to go into them here, but I think that I was able to put them into 4 buckets. What are the public benefits of this project? Why do this? Equity around identity, the town's identity. What does this place mean to the neighborhoods that it serves? Who works here? Who owns businesses here? And what will this mean for them? And how will they be treated through this process? And we're gonna talk about that. The functionality of a major piece of infrastructure that, frankly, is dealing with a problem that has been swept under the rug and maybe ignored for decades. In terms of the functionality after 287 was built, and we have highway level traffic coming through this town, and Morris Street, Spring Street, and Speedwell serve as somewhat of an extended off-ramp to points west of this town. How do we deal with it, and how do we deal with the congestion in this town that's caused really by pass-through traffic? And how does this impact the character of Morristown? This is very different than what's there today, and that these buildings are significant in size and scale, and what will that ultimately mean? So to give an overview of the plan that we're talking about and the properties that we're talking about, for those who aren't familiar, we're talking here about Morris Street, the train station's right here, Spring Street, Headquarters Plaza. The overall redevelopment plan, which is not all included as part of this project we're talking about now, is almost 8.5 acres. Very significant size for a property in this town. This has been going on for some time. In January 2004, 15 years ago, this, along with other properties, including Speedwell, were included in need of redevelopment, meaning that there were certain factors present on these properties that were negatively impacting the public health and welfare, and also negatively impacting the surrounding properties. And there was a concern that this would have a contagion effect. And so that was done in 2004. In 2008, the Spring Street redevelopment plan was adopted that currently governs the use and redevelopment of the site. I'm going to talk about what that is, but that is currently the active zoning, if you will, for this property. In March 2014, the master plan spoke to this site, said that redevelopment plan really should be amended. It doesn't reflect current practices, doesn't reflect current values in this town. In 2016, properties at the corner of Water Street and Spring Street were approved by the planning board, and this body entered into an agreement to do, I think it was something like 25 apartments there, which are currently still under construction. And now in June and July, the project was presented to this entire community, and I felt like it was time that we took a closer look as the planning division and shared our thoughts and our analysis on behalf of, in an even-handed way as possible, on behalf of the public. So the uses that are permitted under that 2008 redevelopment plan included all these uses. Multifamily, retail, dining, offices, hotel. The maximum heights that were permitted and are permitted is 4 to 8 stories. And that really depended on which different phase we were talking about. In this area, partially, an 8-story building was permitted, and is permitted in the form of a hotel with a front yard parking lot, no less. In addition to that, 275 to 325 residential units, 55 to 65,000 square feet of retail, 55 to 65,000 square feet of office, 125 to 175 residential. And a gentleman who testified here maybe two or three months ago, Paul Phillips, who wrote that plan, said, we had no idea. That's why this is so scattershot, that it's a little bit of this, a little bit of office, a little bit of retail. They had no idea what to do with the site at the time. And the planner that prepared that plan admitted that. Because this was a different time in Morristown's history. This was right as the world was going into a really awful recession, really bad economic times, and it wasn't very clear, even as we came out of that recession, where would the opportunities be, where would demand be, where would the bright spots be. So they were trying to figure out anything, to lay all the seeds down and see what grew. So this was that plan that was drawn at that time. This was the physical plan upon which the redevelopment plan was based. So you can see here the train station is sort of over here, and the Highlands is up in this corner, going down, and Headquarters Plaza is here. So this is Spring Street, this is Morris Street. You see in the front an 8-story building with essentially a parking lot in front, which is not really part of modern planning, wouldn't be part of modern planning practices. We like to hold the street and use the street for pedestrians and pedestrian interactivity. This street does not provide that, really, or this plan does not provide that. A parking garage in the back, where it should be, and then mixed use and retail and residential throughout the rest of the site, as it goes down to what's now Bishop Nasri Way, reflected here as Center Street. In the 2008 plan, master plan amendment, it said that this plan was adopted in 2008 but was never implemented. The plan should be amended via a public process, which is where we are today, to more accurately reflect the intended character of the community form district that it's part of, and to resolve various traffic issues. So we are following that playbook that was 5 years in the making. So to take a look and do an overview of the proposal that has been presented now twice to this council and the public. One of each, actually. So this is the sort of abridged piece of property we're talking about. Not that full 8.47 acres. It's, I think, a little over 3. Maybe I have it somewhere else. But this is the site. These are some of the conditions that are on this property. Really a sea of parking in the front. Something that if we were to build this today, we would not have built it this way. It has served Morristown. It is for 50 years or more. It has served Morristown's communities. It has been a place that provided the amenity of retail, of walkable retail, which is like one of the gifts that Morristown residents get to experience, is that you can walk to get a gallon of milk. You can walk to do these things. So this site has been that. It's been right next to the train station and a place of convenience. But it was also a place that has been the people let it go. The current owners, in some respects, let it go. This is properties down on Spring Street that have sat vacant for after the plumbing supply went out. It's been 5-7 years. It's kind of stretching to as long as I can remember, for better or worse. And now this site is deteriorating and not really contributing much to the public. There are, I think, 11 retailers altogether in here. We're going to talk about this. This was a huge part of what we've heard from the public at the last meeting. We have now spoken to every single independently owned retailer along this strip. and we're going to share, what they said. But to give you an idea about the types of operations that are in here, these are all those retailers and where they're located. So, the proposed project, it will contain 350 feet, 350,000 feet of office in 2 different buildings, and 32,000 square feet of retail, 32,560 square feet of retail. This is very comparable to the amount of retail that's there today. It may be, it's within a few thousand feet of the retail that's there today, which ultimately means the same or similar types of goods and services will be there. The similar types of retail jobs will be created because we will have this similar amount of square footage and a similar operation, and I will talk more about that. This is the proposed project as you see it as a rendering, and these were all things that have been shown. I'm just sort of going back through them to refresh everybody. You see in the front of this picture the Highlands at Morristown Station on the right-hand side. This is Lafayette, and the 2 buildings that are being proposed. This is a closer-in view of those buildings, and what you see here is a double alley of trees, which will create, a sense of enclosure on the sidewalk. It is a sidewalk that is significantly wider. It is wider. I always thought the Epstein sidewalk was pretty wide. This is about twice as wide as the sidewalk in front of 40 Park and Roots. That's about 20-something feet. This is about 40, almost 50 feet. It has an area on the inside of the buildings that is proposed for what I'll call programmed area, meaning outdoor dining for the most part. And then there's another piece of area here that's for pedestrians traversing alongside. Compared to what's out there today, and I'm going to show you pictures of that. This is a major improvement, and maybe one of the best kind of public things about it, even though there's a major traffic improvement also. This is a closer-in view of that promenade, showing on the right-hand side the area that's dedicated for programming and activity and dining, and then on the left-hand side for circulation for pedestrians. And then this is if you sort of turned around and look back toward Lafayette, look back toward the Highlands and where Godfather Pizza is. There is an entry court which also can be programmed for public events and by the retailers. There's retail underneath that pedestrian arcade, and then everything above is the office buildings. This is just an overview of that, showing also the roundabout, which we're going to talk much more about in detail with the traffic engineer. But this is just to provide you with that. And taking a look here at a plaza over at Spring and what would be Spring Place now. I know we tried to make a left after coming out of that Burger King lot, and that will no longer, we'll not have to suffer with that anymore. That will be a signalized left turn out, which is a good thing. And but that's where that relocated street would sort of be.
Wait, where would that be? Can you point?
So that's right here. Okay, so some of the public benefits. And what we heard, and I don't want Kevin to put this one photo as the one that ends up as the headline. I took a risk in putting it this way. But what we heard about was, is this just another headquarters plaza? Aren't you guys just making another headquarters plaza with all the things that we don't like about headquarters plaza? And aren't we just replicating the mistakes? So it's like, oh my gosh, let's take a close look at that. Great point. So what is, and so we're going to kind of tell the story of this project through the lens of headquarters plaza. All that's good about it and all that's bad about it. So what's wrong with headquarters plaza? Is it the fall of Morristown? It is desolate. It's poorly designed pedestrian spaces, without a doubt. You don't see a lot of people taking joy walks, strolls along that side of the street. The streetscape. This was a different era of planning. It was this was literally an urban renewal project, a federal urban renewal project. And you go and look at any one of them around the country, none of them are good. I will venture to say that. And this one is no different. It's desolate. It's division, meaning that it separated parts of town. I have a postcard from the 1960s in Morristown in my office that showed what was here before Headquarters Plaza. And it was just like the rest of town. It was like cute little storefronts. It took that away, but then it also turned its back on Spring Street, on MLK, on all the neighborhoods to the north. And some people call it the Morristown's Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of Morristown, that separated the town. It was not an integrative project, and partially that has to do with the way the topography was and is in that area. But it didn't go to great lengths to take this great plaza that they built, not great plaza, that they built, and make it accessible to other parts of town. It really turned its back on one side of town. And it was disruptive. That what we're dealing with today and what you're going to hear about today in terms of traffic, a lot of it comes out of that building. And they didn't do anything to improve the traffic flows when they built this building to make it so people could get back to the highway. That were coming in here just for work to get back to the highway that easily. So there was displacement, there was insensitive design, and there was a lot of traffic improvements despite them. There wasn't any traffic improvements to speak of off-site despite the scale of this building, right? But was it Morristown's also saving grace? We sit here in 2019 and Morristown's doing great, thank God. But I remember back to a time when there was maybe 1 or 2 restaurants open after 9 o'clock. When you could get like tumbleweeds down South Street on the weekends. It's unthinkable today. But during those times, this property produced $1.4 and $1.5 million in tax revenues, which is a significant number. It's like 100 houses. It brought daytime employment here, which helped to support the retail sector and to support the type of economy that I think that we face today. It helped keep our storefronts alive. And the civic and philanthropic contributions of tenants, I was shocked to learn this, about how the types of people that sit in those offices every day, they keep our nonprofits running. They sit on those boards, they donate, and and I'm going to talk more specifically about that. It has attracted and retained human capital in this area, and created opportunities for professional growth for residents. My first job was here in that hotel in life. So it has created, I think a lot of us probably have spent a time working here at one point or another. These are all the civic and philanthropic organizations that employees in Headquarters Plaza support by sitting on their boards, by making major donations on an annual basis, everything from homeless solutions, to soup kitchens, to schools, to food pantry, to Mars Habitat, Salvation Army, First Night, you name it. These are people that are invested in this town. And I think that this is something that you see when you develop office and you have professional office and community-minded organizations that come inside. This is a reality of Headquarters Plaza. So let's look at how these things compare to each other. In terms of direct economic benefits, something that we saw Headquarters did. That's one of the good things about Headquarters Plaza, is it sort of supports the tax base. This property, using that Headquarters Plaza, the same amount of taxes they pay per square foot for office and all that, the estimated annual revenues here could be over $1 million coming to the town. The current taxes they pay on this property, or the properties in question, is $232,000. That's almost a five-fold increase in revenues coming off this property. It would be the tax revenue coming off about $70.5 million homes in this town. I think that's a significant consideration. In terms of affordable housing, the way that non-residential in the state of New Jersey gets dealt with in terms of affordable housing is you do 2.5% of the equalized assessed value of the improvements, which we take to about $950,000 as an estimate. That would be, at our typical $50,000 per unit subsidy, about 19 new affordable housing units that would be built as part of this. And the infrastructure improvement that we're going to get really into in terms of the pedestrian mall / promenade and the roundabout is $3.5 million. Like maybe you hear about government and the federal government and this, millions of dollars here, millions of dollars here. $3.5 million for this town is a lot of money. And it's really hard to get it together. It would be really, really hard to get it together, and it would put this town into debt to do so. So what are some of the indirect economic benefits? Meaning, how does it support the local economy? How does it support everybody here as homeowners, as business owners? That we've done a lot of reading on this about what does office development do for a town. And one of the first things is daytime demand. Daytime consumers, they call them walking wallets. That you bring a lot of people into a town, and it supports the retail sector, which is a good thing, daytime retail. Though a well-designed office supports residential demand and stabilizes property values, these will be people when people are ready to sell their homes, there'll be people there to buy them because they want to live close to where they live. Office tenants will support Morristown's civic and philanthropic entities. That the project creates new economic opportunities in excess of the existing condition, that there could be 1,000 to 1,500 new office employees headquartered here, not here at any given time, because a lot of these consulting firms, or at least the one that we've spoken to, is there, and people kind of go out into their client locations. So who's actually here is a fraction of, who's technically headquartered. 35 to 45 facility employees, engineers, people that clean, people that keep the building running, security, things of that nature. 35 to 45 jobs. And then in the retail, 100 to 125 jobs, which is very comparable to the amount of employment that currently happens on that in the shopping strip. And again, office tenants. So Headquarters Plaza, we said it was desolate, right? Poorly designed, pedestrian realm, the streetscape, the retail. We're going to deal with this. I don't want anybody to think that we're bringing you problems without solutions. I always hate that. So we are in the midst of making Headquarters Plaza great again. And it will. This will be reality by the end of next year. We are negotiating the final agreement for. Thank God. The final agreement for the schedule with this, but what's out there right now will be demolished and replaced with something much more beautiful, much more functional. It will be a place I hope that we all want to go to and hang out. If you haven't been to Mulberry Commons in Newark, I suggest you go check that out. It's really, really great. It shows you what a great piece of public space can do for a neighborhood. This project is not Headquarters Plaza. This is a modern, well-designed streetscape. I don't know of really any other place like this that has this double LA, this double pedestrian space, for outdoor eating and pedestrian circulation. So this place was designed with people in mind. Maybe unlike Headquarters Plaza. It was just sort of designed at the time. And again, these great spaces that will contribute to the vibrancy of this corridor. Division. That who wants to look at this? Who wants to walk past this? This project clearly chose winners and losers at the time. That is not the kind of thing that this project is. So when people say that, are we doing another Headquarters Plaza? Not like this. This is not what's being proposed right now. There is no part of this project that will look like this to the general public and to the public realm. The wheel doesn't turn its back on anyone. This is really what you see. It's a connected project. It's a project that does not create dead spaces that you don't want to walk past. It's really, I think, quite the opposite. So we took a look, and thinking about connections and disconnectedness that you have here, this is what's out there today. A sidewalk that's about 3 foot in width in terms of the pedestrian area, 36 inches between that pole and the planter box. So you're there in 3 feet as a pedestrian between a 200+ car parking lot and 25,000 cars moving every day. This is not the kind of place. I think that Morristown people deserve better than this. And that this is not the kind of place that connects neighborhood to a train station, right? What we have here will do a much, much better job at reconnecting these parts of Morristown that, frankly, places like this and the way that this street frontage has existed for too many years disconnects this town and disconnects neighborhoods from one another. That as part of this project, we're going to be looking at 1,100 linear feet of new streetscape improvement. That's a big deal. That's a lot of money, right? Billion? It would be very hard for the town. We'd have to go out and go to subsidies, get grants, do things like that, cross our fingers, or go into debt to do something like this. And then when we look at actual grant that we did get, $1 million streetscape grant that's going to be doing 1,600 feet, the MLK Transit Connection Project, DOT's funding it, that's going to make improvements along Water Street, along Spring Street, up to Speedwell Avenue. That now we're getting somewhere, right? Now we're starting to repair this fabric. That other project either was never dealt with, never addressed properly, or that other projects sort of left with people as an afterthought, and pedestrians or certain neighborhoods as an afterthought. This is, we'll get a better picture here, but this is part of the video that was shown at the last. This is Spring Street at night in the winter. This is what happens during the peak hour. Cars back up. I'm sure everybody in this room has sat through this. That the disruption that was caused by people coming out of here, limited traffic improvements, despite the increased demand and intensity, the clearance and displacement of full neighborhoods, and the design was just sort of, especially on this side of it, didn't do anything for anybody. This project and the roundabout here, and again, we're going to talk a lot about this roundabout, don't worry. It mitigates its own, it not only mitigates its own traffic impacts, but it mitigates the traffic impacts of Headquarters Plaza. There's going to be an exponential decrease in corridor travel time, as the models are showing, from Speedwell and Spring all the way to Ridgedale. Like a very painful drive for anybody who's done that. I'm sure most of us have. And even if we said, you know what, fine, great idea, thank you developer for doing all this. Thank you for coming up with this roundabout, thank you for spending all these hours and all your resources helping us to figure out this infrastructure issue. But, you know, we'll just take the roundabout, we don't really want anything else. The reality is, a lot of it's on their land. A lot of the roundabout is on their land, is on where the 7-Eleven is today, is on where the parking lot is today. And it would, again, you could ask Mr. Inglesino here, how difficult it is to get private land from people that don't want to sell it. And they're willing to give it here as part of this project. It is a balanced project. One of the questions was, you know, what does it look like from these other angles? Is this going to tower over? It's going to be another Headquarters Plaza. It's going to tower over, you know, Bishop Nazareth, Colon Center, the park here, and this is where the building is. We had to put it in there because there's trees, but it's below the tree line essentially. And I don't know if anybody recognizes where this is, but this is at Cole. The Whippany River sort of curves around that way. This is, I think, our dirt, so don't, you know, excuse our mess. And here it is from MLK, looking back down Cole Avenue, the parking lot, municipal parking lot's here on the left. And then this is it coming up Water Street, or I'm sorry, coming up Spring Street. Water Street is here at this location here. This is coming down from where the post office is. These are the angles that people asked us to see. Council members, that people asked us to take a look at. So what's the cost of an action here? $1 million plus in annual revenue, $1 million about in affordable housing contribution, at least traffic improvements, streetscape, the local retail support, civic and philanthropic, and then, you know, economic word, that this actually will do something for the town, in my opinion. I'm scrutinized these projects, and I will tell you that this developer that we've worked with here at SJP Properties, I have not seen anybody put this amount of care and attention and resources and like pain into planning for this project. You know, it's never easy for municipal planners and public officials to work with private developers, but I will say here that they have duly gone above and beyond. Doug Allen, who's leading this project for SJP, has a legacy in Morristown. His ancestors are from here. He takes this very seriously. It's close to his heart, and it shows. You know, this roundabout thing, like, you don't see many cities doing it, no less private developers. So I just want to say on the record that I appreciate what they've done to give us at least an opportunity to consider it. So traffic improvements, I'm going to be joined at this point by Matt Seckler from Stonefield, who's the engineer.
Morristown.